Okay, good evening and welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. My name is Frank Allen. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. It is Wednesday, May the 24th, 2023. Tonight, we have the pleasure of spending an evening with our mystery psychiatrist. This broadcast is an excellent opportunity for us to all speak with and question a psychiatric practitioner. Her name is Linda. She would love to answer your questions. This is radio and not a conference call or a podcast. Please call right now at 617-987-8603. Linda would love to answer your questions. And with that, Linda, I will turn this podium, if you will, over to you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Frank. So while we're waiting for other callers to join us, I thought I would talk about some of the things that probably are weighing pretty heavy on you all. And you may or may not know, but I also am a targeted individual. It's been several years. And I am being subjected to daily tortures like everybody else. So I want to kind of talk about anxiety and coping mechanisms and how the perpetrators are using any weaknesses that they can find in you to make your targeting more miserable. And anxiety and fear are two things that they absolutely love to have in people. Knowing human nature, you see that as a weakness. You see somebody's afraid, what do you want to do? You want to scare them again, right? When you were a kid, you used to scare somebody who was a scaredy cat because it was fun. You got a reaction from them. And the mentality of a lot of these perpetrators is about fifth grade schoolyard bullies. And so when you think about, who's going to be doing this kind of stuff to other people, that's their mentality. They still think that's funny. So anxiety is a real thing, and everybody has it at some time. It's when anxiety or worry becomes so bad that it interferes with your thinking, with your sleeping, with your eating, your concentration. That's when you know that you've got to do something. You've got to do something to stop that cycle. And the perpetrators are, for the most part, reading your vital signs. When you're anxious, your heart rate goes up. And they can also sense, they're using frequencies to monitor your brain. They can also sense what your brain is doing. So the things that you have to do is look at, first of all, what triggers you so that you can be aware. Once you are aware of what your triggers are to anxiety, that's when you really get ahead of it. And with a lot of practice and a lot of acceptance that you're human and you're doing the best you can, that's when you can actually get a hold of it. But once you feel that you're having your anxiety or a panic attack, because panic attacks are a symptom of anxiety as well.
Okay, Linda, we have a caller.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. This is Studio A.
Hi, how are you?
Would you like to speak with Linda?
I'm just got in, so I really want to hear what she's talking about, and then I'll probably get to asking her question.
Okay. I invite you to call back. This is not a podcast or a conference call. This is radio.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So I'll call back.
All right, thank you.
So listen to the radio and then call back when you have a question, okay?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead.
So some of these things that you can do once you realize that, you're having an anxiety attack or you're feeling anxious or you're starting to panic. And that panic is a lot of times when you actually just want to run, get away from everything, or you don't want to go outdoors. You don't even want to open the blinds. That's how bad it can get. And I tell a lot of people the first thing you should do is be aware of your own body. So be aware of your breathing, be aware of your heart rate. You might, when you're having an anxiety or a panic attack, you might be able to hear your pulse in your ears. And so that's a good way for you to actually get that feedback on what you're doing as far as bringing yourself down. So being aware of yourself and then starting off right away with some slow breathing. So you intentionally want to slow your breathing down. And I used to tell people to breathe in to the count of 5 and breathe out to the count of 5. That's not going to work because when you're really anxious, sometimes it's going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You end up hyperventilating. So you actually make it worse. Think of a song, a song that makes you relaxed, and a song that you can kind of put your breathing to the rhythm of that song. And so that's a good way of starting to get a hold of your anxiety. After you've been doing that, hopefully you'll start to get some response. The next thing you might want to do that works for some people is to get some type of a mantra. And your mantra can be, I got this, I'm better than this, I'm going to get past this. Or your mantra might be, this isn't real, nothing's really going to happen, I've just could get myself back in control. So in other words, what you're doing with your mantra is you're taking the anxiety that is kind of spinning you out of control, and you're bringing yourself, empowering yourself to take control of your body and to slow that anxiety down. Those are just a couple of things. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I do really want to answer the questions that you have. I just wanted to address it. The world is a really crazy place right now. There's a lot going on in politics. There's a lot going on with financial. People are worried about finances. They're worried about their jobs. They're trying to do everything they can to stay afloat, and they're being targeted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's no surprise that you might be having some of these feelings of anxiety or feelings of fear. And I do want to talk just for a little bit about
Linda,
fear.
we have a caller from Montreal. Hold on. Go ahead, caller.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
I was just listening to Linda talk about anxiety, but it seemed like she finished her thought.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, considering what I just heard you say, how does that work when you're in a situation of being, like I'm constantly being followed when I go out, okay? So how do you, what are your, for me, you're right, it doesn't help to do the breathing. A lot of things don't work that work for for somebody who doesn't have this constant stress. So basically, I am asking, how do we heal ourselves if we're constantly being traumatized? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
You still there?
Linda, are you hearing?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I didn't. She cut off.
Okay, go ahead. She's still there.
I kind of have two questions. The first one is, if you're constantly being stressed, and all you can do is get yourself down to the normal thing. Like that's all you can do. Then how can you actually heal from this if it's ongoing? There's a lot of things that have to sort of change, and things that are like in the self-help and all that. A lot of them don't work because of this. Like, there's no happy ending to this story. Like for me, it's about 40 years. I'm being gang stalked. So yes, there are things that are settled, and there are things that I like, little tricks that I've learned. For me, having a sense of humor is really helpful. But the music thing is something I've only recently started to use. For me, it's like because my stalking is continual, all 24 hours a day. What I was thinking about was to not just to sort of put my music and humor thing on a type of steroid, so to speak. So that's my question, really. How? Yes, there is some things you can do to bring yourself back into control, and but then what about the long term? Like, how do we?
That's
how
an
can we heal?
excellent question. Okay, what's your first name?
Rona. I didn't say. Rona.
Okay, and you know what? If
Rhonda
anybody that calls in, you don't have to give me your first name if you don't want to. I just like to
It's
address.
okay.
That's a really,
I
really
feel
good
like everybody
question.
knows me, kind of thing. 40 years of gang stalking. Oh yeah, there she is. I think that everywhere I call, where there's a recording, they're going, "If this is Rona, please hang up now. You've talked enough."
Well, but you asked a question that probably millions of people want to know the answer to, and it's a really important question. And when you look at stress and you look at the body's response to this stress of being stalked all the time, and at times you're in fear, I'm assuming, when somebody is following you, especially in the beginning. You have to look at this as layers. So you have one incident and you get all stressed out, and then you finally, it's over, but then the next incident happens. So it builds layers and layers and layers in your subconsciousness. And that can actually create
let's call it overwhelm.
It makes you overwhelmed. It can create a hypervigilance, right?
Yeah.
Like post-traumatic stress disorder is hypervigilance. And, people think of the military with PTSD, but absolutely with targeted individuals, I would be very surprised if somebody doesn't have PTSD. Okay?
Yeah.
So the whole thing is...
I was told, that's what I have. But then, then they kept changing it, like some kind of, whatever, like a restaurant where the diagnosis of the day.
Well, do you have a provider that you can talk to about your
schizophrenia?
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. I'm joking.
The thing is with this hypervigilance, this can actually cause some really bad problems. It can cause you to have nightmares and flashbacks, and I don't know if you have any of that. But PTSD, when you get that hypervigilance, then you're always looking over your shoulder. You're always thinking that you're seeing something or hearing something, and it may or may not be the stalkers. And that's why I'm saying you've got to take, empower yourself to be in control of your body, and you've got to actually work really, really hard at is this actually gang stalker, or is this something else that's going on? I know one person I spoke to a long time ago. They've been running cable to do Fidium is the new type of internet that they're doing, and so this person said, this truck's been there and they're doing this and they're going up and down the street, and every time they go further up the street, they come back down to that one pole across the street from my house. And so they were convinced that they were doing something, right? And I looked at the truck And I said, "Oh, okay." Call the phone number that was on the side of the truck, and I
Yeah.
asked, like, it was a company, it was the same name of the truck, and I asked a couple
Mm.
questions, and they said, "Well, we're not ready to do this in your area yet. We're just putting the fiber optic cable up right now." And I said,
Uh,
"Okay." And I asked how long it was going to be. So, you call to get that information. The the
yeah.
the victim couldn't do that. They just were so panicked and so convinced that this was part of their
Yeah.
gang stalking.
Oh yeah.
But this is
Oh,
try you
yeah.
so you can talk to somebody, but try to do this on your own first. Okay?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Like for me, I don't have the trouble that that person has, because I have this like amazing sense of humor.
mhm,
So for me, I kind of go, oh, that's why there's all these trucks. It's garbage day, like I'm always going for the normal thing, and then if it turns out it is them, then it's sort of like, oh well, yeah, that's my normal, So
yeah.
after 40 years, I think I have normalized as much as I can. Like maybe that's my advice to people who are just starting out.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, so this
I
is a
think that
good thing
my
is to
advice is like
normalize it. And
eventually
actually having
you're
humor.
like it's normal.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
So what you're doing is very good because you are normalizing it and you're using humor. Humor is a very good coping mechanism. Sometimes, like in emergency critical care, um, police, fire departments, they use humor, and then usually it's off-color humor as a coping mechanism, but it works. And then they deal with it after the fact. Once the crisis is over, then they deal with it, and so they don't have to joke about it anymore. But it's a very, very good coping mechanism. You know that they are looking for a reaction from you. So
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
if you don't even glance their way, or if you just pretend that you don't even see them, or if they're doing
Mm.
something and they're waiting for you, like how they tickle your skin to make it tickle, like itch or something,
Yeah.
don't even,
Yeah.
like, do everything you can not to touch yourself so that they don't
Yes.
get a
Yes. Oh
response
yeah.
from you. And
Yeah. There'd be like a spot on my head, or
yeah,
like the top of my head, or the side of my head, or my eyes will become like suddenly like dry, like the desert, and like
yeah,
today I was like, like meditation is that. Don't like scratch the itch. Literally, don't scratch the itch. I mean, that's the only thing I learned from meditation. And I did this
yeah,
book called 8 Minute Meditation, But then I
yes,
graduated, like after a while, I was like, no, I got to do like a laughing meditation, or a jumping meditation, or a walking meditation. Like I can't just sit there. It seems like like they seem to move closer and closer, because you see, the thing is, my sense of humor and my all the work I've done to maintain my distance from them, now they have to ramp it up. See, that's the like unfortunate thing, is that all these strategies are great, but then they kind of catch on, kind of like that, how gray rock has sort of backfires. Can I explain the gray rock, how it backfires when you're been gang stalked?
sure,
It's yeah, okay. So people in narcissistic relationships, they're advised to,
mhm,
what you just said, stay like in this sort of zone of like, oh yeah, that's nice, okay, and not, I mean, don't say anything, but like whatever they're saying, you don't give rise, you don't give them a reaction. You
mhm,
observe, don't absorb. I've heard it all. Okay, so you're doing that, and then all of a sudden, like if you do that for 24 hours, you are totally disconnected from yourself. I mean, I noticed that I don't, like, I can move so far away from me in that respect, not to give them what they want, that lose me, I'm a robot,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing that I've been doing is trying to navigate that middle road of like between not reacting and then look, if I need to cry, I'm going to effing cry. Like I'm just like, let them see me cry, And I was thinking about
Yeah.
this. Maybe you can help me with this. How do we, like somebody like for me, I'm sure everybody has this struggle to like, yes, you don't want to give in to I'm not going to give in to the pressure. But then where does that lead me as far as like how my feelings are and if I need to cry or if I need comfort and they're laughing or they think it's funny or they're bored or whatever. Like all of a sudden I'm put in this position where now I need to stop them from having these other reactions. Like, oh my God. It's just like, it's like they make you commit to the strategy. Like you're stuck in this like gray rock or whatever it is that you're trying to do because now that's the thing that they want,
Yeah.
I can know how to put it in different, it's insane. Like you're just like, it seems like everything becomes something that they want,
Well, so the thing is that you cannot give it this much attention or this much. It can't be that big of a part of your life. I mean, you can't because
well, look, maybe one day. I hope that maybe that's the answer. Is just to go. Okay, that's enough. I'm ready to like move on to the next challenge.
I used to spend hours and hours writing down license plate numbers and taking pictures and this and that. And then I'm like, but this is crazy. I'm giving them exactly what they want, a reaction. I'm getting this whole database of everything, and they're laughing because you know what? I did file stalking reports because I had pictures of the same guy in the same car in multiple places that I went on different days at different times. And the police officer came and he was wonderful. And then all of a sudden the report, nothing ever happened to it. I called and I gave the report number and nobody knew anything about it and I never got a call back. So I said, okay, well, you know what? This is when I have to make it, this doesn't matter to me. So they don't matter. I'm going to live my life. And it once you live your life, it doesn't affect you that much. You don't want to be numb. You're becoming numb to this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You don't want your body to be numb.
I would say jaded, like that's nice.
Yes.
Good for you.
So jaded is that's a safety mechanism, but the thing is you were saying that you were actually not even being you. And you don't want to be numb to being you and the person that you are. Yes, be jaded. Right. That way you're not as easily of a target. But you also have to not let this be your whole life.
Yeah. I have
enjoy
to be me,
your life.
And that's like today. It's funny how we're talking, and I realized that I did live my life today and every day. I'm just saying, like. I'm just trying to show you like this sort of like double bind that comes with strategies, like I think in my case, I've had to come up with, like, that's why I'm listening to you and asking you questions. It's like there's a lot of things that work for just so long before I have to sort of switch it up, I have to switch it up, and I have to, like your advice works maybe on a Monday. But that on Wednesday or Tuesday, that gets tired, and they start liking it, and then I'm not doing it because they're liking it. I'm going, okay, this is it's not working to protect me. It's now I feel like I'm entertaining them,
Yeah.
But the that's what's great about. Well, I am always myself. Like, I've never stopped, Like, there's this thing out there, I don't know if you've seen this, where people say, oh, I'm like there's a book called How to Stop Being Yourself.
Huh.
I can't believe that. No, for me,
Yeah.
like like I have a bit of training in psychology, and they're like, what? And they're always being yourself, and now it's like, well, no, that's enough. No more being yourself.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
that's not healthy.
Sorry
though.
about that.
Don't
No,
let
I
them
just-
change
I
the
think it's
person
funny,
that
you
you
know.
are.
I know,
So
but
keep,
it's confusing
keep
what's
something
going
else
on.
in
you know.
mind. All right,
Sorry?
keep something else in mind. Now, these people only have so many tricks in their bags. So, whatever protocol you are on, there's only so many things that they can do. They can't act on their own. They have to follow the protocol or what they're being told to do to you. And so, yeah, if they're going to do something and it's working, they're going to continue doing it. If you're doing something and you're deflecting away from them, then they're going to try, they'll keep trying, and then they'll figure, okay, well, this is a waste of time. Then they'll move on to something different. But if you really take note, it's the same stuff that just keeps coming back. As long as you know how to deflect it, you're going to get better at deflecting it. And then I have found it's making mine less. The more I'm deflecting, because I already know once something starts, it's all, oh, this is what they're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's it. Like
I
me
like
too. Like
I use humor.
like you don't live in a vacuum. You know, you're
Right.
like they like the humor thing. That's something like. Well, I kind of like let it go for a while, like because you know I was listening because I was like, oh my God, you know, like I you know it was an awakening. Each time I learned something, it was like
Yes.
it's only been that like a couple of years that I've awakened to this that it was happening. Like each time I had an awakening, it was like a part of the puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like years ago, I met somebody who was a targeted individual, and she insisted that I was, and she sent me information, and this was like maybe 30 years ago. So, like, I come from there where I was like, yeah, I could be, and like she sent me like a pile of information about head injury and all this stuff, and I was like, wow, you know, because I was so into like I've always been into being a better person and trying to work on myself to evolve, you know. But when I met this woman, she said, no, this is happening, and like here, I'm going to send you all this proof, and it was a pile, it was a huge pile, and it was, but I dismissed it, you know, because I was like, nah,
Right. Because
You know?
our brain can't, it's irrational. It's hard for our
Exactly.
brains to accept this irrational program. It's crazy. I want to try to move on a little bit. I'm not sure if anybody
Sorry
else
about-
wants to call in, but I want to bring up
That's
one
okay.
other thing that you mentioned that's another really good coping mechanism, but it also has another thing that's good is music. So when I was listening to somebody's podcast, and they were talking about when they're monitoring your brain, and they said, what do you do? And he said, listen to music, sing to the music, dance, make your brain not think about things, make your brain so that they're not getting anything from you. And, you know, music and dance and singing, that is so therapeutic. That is so good for your psyche. And so if you get in the habit of doing things like that, you know, it will help you. And I do,
that
and you know,
was
I'll tell you,
immediate.
I'll
That
put
was
Christian music
immediate.
on.
It was
Because,
amazing.
you know, they're not
Music
Christians.
is so powerful. Like you are so right. Like that thing never gets old to, or like not like it's never not a time for music for me. Like that's what I did all day. I sang a bunch of songs, and it was amazing. Like it was the transformation, and you know, there's like a machine of it keeps going. Like you're right. There's no. It's almost disconnected from me. Like that's how I think, in a way, it's wonderful that how the distance I have from it. It's like Oh yeah, it's. Oh, I looked at the time when I heard the first indication of there's, my neighbors trying to bother me, and I was like, oh yeah, he's starting his shift now.
Yep. And then
Anyway,
so it's like, oh, second shift is starting, and so second shift only knows certain tricks. Okay, so if you already know it's if it's that particular neighbor, you know what they're good at, and so just learn how to deflect that. But music and singing and dancing, that is actually it's going to help you a lot, and it's going to give them nothing.
yeah,
Okay.
they were trying to throw me off the song too. Like they. Anyway, sorry. That's it. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to take up the time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, this is TM Broadcasting, Talk Radio. And if you'd like to ask Linda a question, dial 617-987-8603. Thank you.
Okay, while we wait, I was talking
Go
a little
ahead.
bit about.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing? Would you like...
All right, I just have a question. Yeah.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. I just want to know, how do you bring up a condition that they have, well, not a condition, a problem that they have caused, like they have attacked my knees. But I went to the doctor today, and I wanted to tell her all this stuff that's happening, but I know you can't do that. So I just told her about my knee when she asked me what kind of, what kind of pain you're feeling, and I told her it's like pins or knives are sticking me in my knee, she, except that she called it acute pain, but that's not what I really wanted to tell her. So I'm just wanting to know, how do you go by explaining more detail into them? Because, I want to use it into a lawsuit just as well. So I don't know, what should I say more? Should I just keep it the way it is, or what?
So you were very smart to be very careful and not say things, because you don't want to get labeled. So, it's getting out there, but it's not out there enough yet.
Right.
So, so what you are describing is sharp pains that you're having in your knee.
Right.
And so your doctor is corrected. It's acute pain. And I'm sure your doctor asked, what were you doing when it started? What makes it worse? What makes it better? Just trying to figure all of that out. Did they take x-rays, or did they do anything else?
Okay, go ahead, caller.
Are you asking me? Are you talking to me?
I'm
hearing something, and I'm not certain because I've never talked before.
Is this
brought any?
Is this Susan?
It is, yes.
Okay, for some reason you've jumped over the other caller. Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Hold on, wait a second. Let's see if we can.
Sure.
Okay, the other caller has hung up. That's too bad.
Well, so hopefully she can listen to this answer. So hopefully the doctor will do x-rays, okay? Now, they don't always do x-rays. There's protocols now on when you're going to do x-rays, when you're going to do an MRI, when you're going to do a CAT scan, etc., because the insurance companies don't want to pay for it if it doesn't meet certain criteria. But any type of examination that you get, make sure you get a copy of all of those tests, because there's your evidence. Your medical record, you can get a copy of your medical record. Gather your evidence, but I wouldn't say anything yet to your doctor. Okay, we'll move on to Susan.
Hi there. My name is Sue Benz, and I live in Cape Coral, Florida. I live in a very difficult situation where I am in a center of a cell of people. I am the nucleus, and I am surrounded, the street in back of me and the street on my street, with perpetrators. And they are severely attacking my cats as well as myself, and 24/7. Some of them are using lasers, some is a microwaving, and some I can't identify. I really don't know the weapon. They change off the perpetrators a lot, and they come and go. However, I try to protect myself as best I can, and I won't get into that detail with you because it's not really critical. Where I'm at right now is that they successfully took down my cat, one of my cats, in March. It was a horrendous thing that I experienced with my poor animal. And I tried to save him by going to the emergency room, and on the way there, they finished him off. I have 2 other cats at the moment, and they're going to be next. They're hitting them, and one in particular, I can see that she will be the next in line. I am trying to get out of this rental home in August, and I'm doing my best to keep my sanity until I can get out of here. However, I know that things will not change. It will follow me. It may be intensified. How do I cope with... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Okay. How do I cope with the targeting of my animals, and I see it, and I'm doing my best to try and protect them. Yet I know it's inevitable because they have software program. I know that they can see the cat and they can manipulate it, and that's what they did with my cat that they destroyed.
Yeah.
So how do I cope with this day in and day out?
It's very hard. It's just, losing a pet is like losing a family member. And, you go through those stages of grief, with death and dying. And and everybody has to go through that. You're going to go through the angry stage and, but the whole thing is to do the best you can, like you said, to protect your cats. I'm not sure what shielding you're trying, but if they're surrounding you, probably shielding is hard. I know at one point, I was looking into Faraday cages.
Studio A, Talk Radio.
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm answering a call.
Oh, okay. But anyways, so the whole thing is that love your cats, the ones that are there, and there is support groups for people who are grieving. I wouldn't say that they were targeted. Just it's but you're going to get some support from other people. It's a group who are going through other situations where there's grief. There might even be some online support groups that work with grieving. So it seems like you're going to be losing multiple pets. So this is going to be hard. It's because it's not just one. It's going to be another one, and it's going to be another one. I wouldn't get another pet for a little bit, and that way they won't have anything else to do. They're trying to hurt you. They're trying to get a reaction from you, and it's a normal reaction to grieve. And I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Now you're on the verge of starting to see a second animal suffer. Are they doing it to you as well?
Oh, I guess she dropped off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead, Studio A, Talk Radio. Okay, she's back. Hold on. This is Susan Benz.
Okay.
Okay, Susan.
Susan.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Are they also are they using the microwave on you as well, or just the cats?
No, I am being targeted along with them.
Okay.
Not severely, but enough, that I cope with it. I can cope with it. So
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about having to live my life not knowing I'm going to have an animal and them being destroyed. It's very upsetting.
It's almost like you might want to foster them to somewhere for a little while to see if you
I
can
have
save
thought
them.
of that, but it will follow. That's what I'm scared about. How do I know that they're going to be in good hands? I don't know. I'd be giving
Yeah,
them to somebody that is worse.
yeah,
That's 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 what's so hard. Um, I make the best of it every day, and I pray a lot. I fight them a lot. I don't put up with anything. I'm very much a fighter. I protect myself a lot, and I win a lot. I'm a very strong person. I have a lot of stalking when I leave the house, and I handle them.
I think we have somebody else
Hello?
on the.
Yeah, hello?
Hi.
Hi. I just
Go ahead, Susan.
called you to ask you about that question, and I got cut off. I guess they're tapping the phones or something. I don't know. Concerning my knee. That was me.
It looks that way.
Oh, good. Okay. So, did they do
Yeah.
X-rays on your knees?
They're gonna do X-rays. I guess I'm supposed to go maybe is it this week or next week and start getting my X-rays for my knee. Yes,
Okay.
they didn't do it, but that's what I'm
Okay.
supposed to do, and they're gonna go from there. But she gave me some cream, some not Motrin cream. She said I can use on my leg because what has happened, they have attacked it so much that there's a knot on the side of it protruded out. It's like it's not really a knot per se, but it looked like a knot. It's like a built up tissue or something because it's not hard.
Yeah.
But by them attacking me so much at my knee, they have attacked my thigh and they have attacked the back of my leg. So now it's they got it looking swollen and kind of deformed looking. So I don't know.
Take pictures. And
Hmm.
when you get your X-ray, get a copy of the X-ray and a copy of
Okay.
the report, and just keep all of that as evidence. Right
Okay.
now, I wouldn't say that it's because of targeting, but
Hmm.
just keep gathering your evidence because if some of
Hmm.
them are making mistakes and they're doing things that are actually it'll show up on X-rays or it'll show up on a CAT scan,
Uh-oh.
and so that'll give you your proof.
Uh-oh.
But it's just not the time yet to say
Mm.
anything. The medical
I know, but
community,
I want.
yeah,
Hmm.
they're still going to look at you like there's something wrong with you.
Cuckoo.
And
Right. I didn't
unless you're
think it.
fortunate to find a provider that knows about it.
Yeah, they also attacking my dog too. I was listening to the lady
Mm,
that was saying
yeah,
about her cat, and they're attacking her at her private area because I'm looking and she so they've been attacking her pretty heavy too. I mean, she gets through it. I don't know how. She like being in the house instead. I said I would be outside, girl, but they attack her ears, like her eyes be having a lot of pus in it. So they've been attacking her too, but she's like a Great Dane. She's a big dog, look like
yeah,
a horse. So maybe she can handle it a little better. I don't know.
yeah. I don't know. I know that it's such a big concern when people have children or pets and they're being targeted. It's just the whole thing doesn't make sense. It's
I
crazy.
know it doesn't.
Um,
It doesn't. I don't even know what to use on it. I mean, I bought like radiation, those blankets, and I bought magnets. The lady
uh-huh.
told me put magnets around it, but I put it like on her ear. I made something and put magnets in it and tied it around her, up on her neck. But she's still flopping. I don't know if she's flopping because she don't want it or is it bothering her? I don't know. But I call myself making something for her because I know they said you can use magnets and that helps. So, but that's not helping. So I don't know.
There's a lot of different places that you can go to that will talk about
Hmm.
shielding for different
Hmm.
issues. And I
Okay.
know at one point I was researching all of that. I don't need to do that now. But I did use
Hmm.
a lot of YouTube. There's things on YouTube and stuff Frank, do you
Okay.
have resources for shielding?
Yes, we do have resources for shielding. There is a
Okay.
site called Less EMF. I believe it's
Less
.org.
EMF.
Less EMF.
Yeah.
And they are very good. They're up to date. They have
Yep.
the latest materials and whatnot.
Okay.
That's who I would recommend.
Well, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try it. 'Cause also I'm having a frequency too, but it's like really bad. But I mean, I use magnets. Seem like it might help a little bit. And I've been
Yep.
using the water bottles, but I was just hoping if there's something like for the ear. I have to put all that on there, so I don't know. But
Is it on the
anyway.
dog's ear, you mean?
No, my ear, her ear, she having something, and I'm having that.
So what is it?
Constantly in
Is
my
it like
ear.
a ringing sound or?
It's like a humming. It's like that's what it sounds like.
So Frank has a resource.
Constantly.
He has a couple resources on that as well that
Mhm.
you can look into.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
Now the
Please
other
do,
thing, so
Frank.
I recommend that you
Mhm.
pursue
Mhm.
an audiologist
Yeah.
and take the
Oh,
test.
you are. Just,
It's
uh-huh.
between an hour and 2 hours long, and find out what they say. It'll be very interesting, I promise you.
How should I come to them with it? I mean, I don't want to say frequency. So
Oh,
what
no.
should I say?
Just say you have ringing in your ears.
tinnitus.
Yeah, just say tinnitus or ringing in your
Tinnitus.
ears, or tinnitus if
Okay.
you're from, across the water.
Okay.
But yes, do that, please.
Okay.
You'll find
Well,
that
thank
satisfying.
you, Frank. And what's
You're
your name
welcome.
again?
Her name's Linda.
What's your name?
My name is
What's her
Linda.
name? What'd you say? Linda.
And-
Okay.
and
Thank you,
Linda.
Linda and Frank.
You're welcome.
You're so welcome. And
All right.
good night.
All right. Good night.
Okay.
Okay, Susan, I think we can move on. Go ahead.
Okay. Do we have another caller?
Not yet, so you can
Okay. All
continue.
right. I was starting to talk about fear, and this is when you first start targeting you. That's what they're trying to do, is make you have fear, because fear makes you very vulnerable. And if you're one of these people that is either in the beginning parts where you're afraid, then you've really got to look at what's happening to you to determine, are they really trying to break into my car when I'm stopped at a red light, or are they really trying to break into my house? Set things up so that you can have protection, so that you don't have to have that fear, but you have to get past that, because they're going to use that against you. And I know for me, once I got past the fear, that's how I started being able to fight it all off, and made life a lot better. And I don't know, Frank, if you have the same, if they started, I know for a lot of women, they try to start them off with fear. They try to create a traumatic event, and they try to, because they're going to draw on that traumatic event.
Yes, they do. They drop a serious amount of paranoia
Yep.
right on you all at once. No
Right.
holds barred. And because you don't know what it is or who is doing it, it becomes very fearful.
Mhm.
And you immediately probably exhaust most of your resources. And if you're not careful and you tell the wrong person at that point in time, you will end up in a state hospital. This is
Yes.
what normally happens to new TIs. But in today's world, it is happening to veteran TIs. All right, go ahead, Linda.
So that is a really Thank you so much, because that's a really important point. So this is all, a lot of this is, they have psychologists who are actually helping them to make their plan on what they're going to do to you and looking at how you're responding. They're looking at the response from what they're doing. What they're trying to do is say, okay, well, if she responded to this each time we did it, then we can assume that the general population is going to respond to this the same way, because they're also doing mind control. Their thing is they want to control everybody at some point. But and that was why I was saying, don't give them the reaction that they're wanting. So fear, anxiety, you've got to, sadness, really do the best you can at not giving that to them and using your coping mechanisms to keep yourself in check. You're going to have to, when at some point, you're going to have to see a psychiatrist or a mental health professional that you can trust. And you're going to have to go through some therapy to deal with it, because you're almost suppressing things. Well, you are suppressing things right now, but you're doing it to protect yourself. And, it's easier said than done, but it's going to help you out in the long run. So the thing is if you go and tell your doctor, or you call the police and tell them that your neighbors are shooting lasers at your cat or whatever, I'm just thinking of things. There's a good chance that they've already, that the doctor doesn't know, and they're going to start wondering if you're delusional or if you're paranoid. They love to label the targeted individuals as paranoid schizophrenics. That's the big one that they're using. The second one they use is delusional.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Paranoid schizophrenia, isn't that something that is onset at like age 20 or less? And that if they,
yes.
if they diagnose you in your 50s with that, that's not really going to happen, correct? Or am I in error?
A legitimate mental health person would not. A legitimate mental health person is going to look deeper into this, because it's so out of the norm. And if you look at this person has functioned normally through the peak times that they would be where these symptoms would come up in their, we'll say 17 to 38. So if they function normally during this time and after, the likeliness of this being schizophrenia, or even more so a paranoid schizophrenic, is very low. But, they're paying people off to do this, to make this diagnosis. They're paying people off to bring them to the emergency room with the lie about them, what they did, so they can do an involuntary emergency admission to a psychiatric hospital, and they can hold you for 72 hours without going to court. At 72 hours, if they still feel you need to be held, you have to go to court. And so you don't want to give them anything that they're going to be allowed to do that. And I'm going to say, when I first, they tried to do that to me. They tried to say this one person kept saying I was a paranoid schizophrenic. And so that was a person that was put there to try to push your buttons. And I wouldn't do it. But when I left that state and moved back up here, and I called the police, and he was asking if I had any mental illness. And I said, no, I've never had any mental illness in my life ever. And so he says, well, sometimes things come up. And I said, no, they don't come up. And I said, I'd like to know what your credentials are to make this determination, because I'm board certified in psychiatry. So I'd like to know how you know this better than I do. And you don't present with paranoia, schizophrenia, or any of these psychoses if it's other than a metabolic thing, you're not going to present in that in your 50s and 60s. And the police stopped trying to do that, but they were, for a lot of times, would say, well, let's just get it checked out. Why don't you just talk to somebody? And I'm like, no, do not talk to a mental health professional until you know it's someone that you can trust. And even then, I would tread very slowly on what you're saying.
Exactly. Now, I have a question for you before you proceed.
Yes.
Do members of your profession have a protocol regarding targeted individuals or Havana syndrome victims by any chance?
No. So I'm going to tell you, it's not taught. This is not taught to everybody. So you have good people and bad people in every profession, and they have some really bad mental health professionals, psychologists mostly, who are being paid to do this to other people. And but the general population has never heard of it. Although I did share this with you, Frank, about 6 months or so ago, I met up with a colleague and we were having lunch, and I was talking about something, but it was very vague. I never shared with this person that I was a targeted individual. I never shared any of that. But I said something, and she looked at me and said, "Are you being targeted?" And I honestly, I wanted to burst into tears out of joy that, oh my God, somebody knows about this. Well, she had a patient who's a targeted individual, and they trusted her, and she told me about their situation, and she says, I believe them. I believe that this is happening to them. And I said, absolutely. And I need to catch back up with that person just to say, hey, if you want to refer that patient of yours, I can help them with some resources. But
okay, we have
little by little, they're learning.
Right. We have an open door policy. Anybody that wants to call, we can refer them directly to you, or indirectly. We can screen first so that you don't get people that are just nosing around, if you know what I mean.
Right. So the thing is that's a great point, because I'm kind of hoping that this call, the reason why we're having this call is a conversation that Frank and I had, and he happened to mention the anxiety and the fear that a lot of the targeted population are having. And I said we have to address it, because if we don't address it and help them with their coping mechanisms, their targeting is going to be worse. It's not going to get better. And so it's really, we've got to be in together. We've got to share our strengths and share what we've done to get past this. So I don't know if the best thing would be for people to reach out to Frank and give a general idea of what your situation or concern is, or what you would like. And I'm wondering if we get enough people within the same topic, we could maybe do a group call. You've ever heard of group therapy? And so Frank and I can do that. I could certainly lead it, and Frank can help moderate it, and we can have the group that's all having the same symptoms or having the same situation kind of share with each other and support each other. And then we can talk about things as far as what you can do, what I can offer you.
Isn't
I
this
do have my,
a very valuable piece of evidence to have in your portfolio, that you have spoken with a psychiatrist who is also a target, or not, probably not in those words. I'm sure you will come up with the right strategy, I would assume, for that.
So, if that was the other thing that we talked about, was the fact that, if somebody's being labeled inappropriately with a mental health diagnosis. So let's talk about that. Any legitimate health professional, in order to make that diagnosis, we have something called the DSM-5 book. And I pull that book out with everybody that I'm going to make a diagnosis, and I explain the criteria to them so they understand that they meet criteria according to this book. And because you don't want to incorrectly label somebody with a mental health issue, even though, there's still a stigma out there, but, mental health is just the same as diabetes or heart disease. It's an organic thing. And but people there's still a stigma about mental health. So if they're trying to label you, I would ask, can you tell me which DSM criteria I meet, or show it to me?
Okay, Linda, we have a call from Florence, New Jersey. Hold on.
Okay.
Studio A, Talk Radio. Go ahead, Florence, New Jersey.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Hey, I don't know what the doctors. Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
I don't know what the doctor's name is, but I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, you're on speakerphone, sir. Could you kindly turn off your speakerphone?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Let me turn that off. Okay, that's better.
Very good, sir.
I've been targeted for many, many years. When I look at my resume, I know it was about roughly 20 years ago. I started noticing very rude and strange behavior at every job. And the thing is, I know it's not me, because when I go into a job, I present myself well. So I know it's coming from somewhere external. In 2012, I got my government job, and I was greatly harassed. But early on, a few employees, one of them actually was a good friend, older Christian lady, and she told me two of the slanders that was going around the workplace. I won't mention them on this call here, but a lot of male TIs get this particular slander. So I was there for 4 years, but the harassment was great. I noticed damage to my car. Even one employee told me not to bring my car there. They ended up accusing me of wanting to do harm to other people, which wasn't the case. And they gave me a mental health diagnosis of delusional and unspecific psychosis. And it is, I have other people have come forward years after that government job. A lady that I was close to in HR called me and said someone who retired wanted me to know that I was actually being targeted there. I know it's coming from FBI. It started in Philadelphia. And again, I'm going to be 50 August 11th. And this was about 20 years ago that I noticed it. And now I guess New Jersey has some sort of threat list within the state where if you have a mental diagnosis. So one of the things I've come to know is that they'll send some sort of notification out when you go to different areas, I guess alerting or some sort of profile. I talked to Karen Stewart about this, and I walked up on someone a couple times, and I did see something interesting on their phone that didn't look normal, that looked like it wasn't Facebook or social media, but it looked like some sort of breakdown of a person. And one of the things that happened was a stranger walked up to me. They looked down at their phone. They looked back up at me and said, "Someone must really hate you." So I don't know if I've gotten any weapons. I am a little bit suspicious, though, of some things, because when I had worked in IT at an airport, I went through a checkpoint with just shorts on, but yet it still triggered one of our monitors there, and I thought that was very strange. Again, I have no confirmation of being chipped, but when it comes to gang stalking, having slanderous things being sent out to every job I've had, that has been my case all my life, and I do hope to eventually get some recourse and have a case that I need to be paid. I've suffered a long time with this, and it's not. Look, I would rather be working for my living, but if something is violating due process, right? Okay. Again, we have terrible threats to our nation, but I'm not one of them. Um, and honestly, I would want to be evaluated, and I think Anna Toledo should definitely have a psychiatrist on her team, because she would be able to describe, through someone going through this, what are some of the things. For example, PTSD. This is such a crime. It needs to be compensated for. Just like with the Tuskegee experiment, they didn't admit till years later what they had done. And there's been other atrocities, and this is by far the biggest one I've ever seen. It's happening to everyone across the board, no matter race, religion, creed. It doesn't matter. And I'm so happy for those FBI whistleblowers, because when Agent Boyle said they'll target FBI agents and other individuals, I knew exactly what he meant. And I hope he gets in a place where he can expand on that, actually. So, I don't have a mental health condition, but I will say that through this abuse, I would definitely say I'm suffering from very deep depression, but I keep myself going with my faith in Jesus Christ. And I know there's PTSD. I have some, I guess, anxiety sometime about going around people. And at this point in my work career, knowing that it was tampered all these years, of course I have a fear of going to a new job. I started a new job coming up, and it's on site, but I have an interview on Friday for a remote IT leader job. So I have to keep my peace of mind first, because if a company doesn't need you, they'll let you go. So even though one company has offered me the job, I'm still kind of thinking, what's the best thing for my mental health? I'm sorry if I'm babbling on, but this is very hurtful, and I'm an isolated TI, so I'm out in New Jersey. I don't have any TIs close to me or groups, but I know Gaji's group is going to start having meetings, so I'll drive up to New York to meet with them. This has done a lot of damage to my life, and I'm no threat to anyone. I know by this happening to me, it changed the course of my development and growth. And even if my son and grandchildren are both autistic ADHD, but the thing is, it doesn't mean I don't recognize that someone's hurting me. I know this is a crime. I know it violates the 5th and 14th Amendment and other amendments. And I know that I got no due process to have my name put on the list. And that's the case for everyone. Thank you.
Very good.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm very sorry to hear about that. Can I give you a couple thoughts?
Yes.
Are you okay? You probably are going to be more protected going back to the government, and the government is still doing a lot of remote IT jobs. I retired early from. I was a senior executive with the federal government, and I retired it before I wanted to because I was a targeted individual. And I figured I'm going to go out on top. I didn't want to have anything happen that was going to take me down. And so I chose to do that. But if you had people, if human resources told you that, did you by any chance ask if you could get any type of statement from that person? And I would also, if the person from HR isn't willing to give you any statement, I would write down, it's called a contemporaneous record. I would write down what she said, when she said it, like they get the date and all of that, because that is all part of the stuff that's going to help you at some point when we should be compensated for this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would like to add that he mentioned targeted justice, and
Yes.
this would be something very good for you to get involved with. If they need an expert witness, which I'm sure Anna Toledo as he mentioned, would probably enjoy.
What's your name, by
Yeah.
the way?
My name's Frank
Um,
Allen, and this is. Go ahead, Linda.
Linda. And okay, so I also want to talk about they gave you a diagnosis of delusion and what was it, psychosis?
They said unspecific psychosis.
Isn't that strange?
So are they trying to put you on medication? What are they doing about
Well,
that?
Well, this was years ago when it happened. I'm
Yeah.
getting into therapy now, but this is for my own, personal mental health. But that's what they gave me, and this is something within the state of New Jersey. So, in order to just, to verify some things, I went and applied for a firearms purchaser card, and it was denied, stating that I have a mental health flag.
Okay.
What's your whole name, Linda? What?
I'd rather not say it on the radio.
Okay,
Um,
all right, no worries.
That's okay. You can communicate with Frank.
Okay.
About some of this stuff. Okay.
Okay, we
Yeah.
have
So listen,
Quebec
I
back.
just want to finish this, Frank, because this
Okay.
is important. I would like for you, if you trust this therapist, ask them to give you all of the criteria that you meet in the DSM-5 book that says you're delusional or that you have a psychosis or anything, because if they can't, you have to meet a certain number of the criteria for you to have that diagnosis. And if you don't meet that criteria, that needs to be removed from your record.
Okay, we lost him, and we have Montreal, Quebec back once again. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Hello?
caller. Go ahead.
Hi. I had a quick question because of the man and you were discussing
Okay,
that he
yeah.
was targeting. Does everybody have the same reason why they end up on these lists, or is it like a variety of reasons? That's my question. Thank you.
I think the reason is the same, but it's perceived as a variety of reasons.
Okay, and does the people who put you on the list, do they get paid?
The people
Like,
that
do
do
people
this,
get paid to put you on the list? Like, is your life worth something to the targeted? Do they have to pay to get somebody on the list, or does somebody get paid?
I think anyone can appear on these lists, but I don't believe all of the targets have become this way because of the list. I haven't seen a list yet.
Me too. I don't know, but the thing is, like, in my case, I'm suspecting there was like somebody getting paid. Like there was it's just I'm just curious. If there's something about putting somebody on list to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Does the targeted people say, "Hey, good, here's some money"?
Okay.
Do they do that? Do they?
Can you refer to Linda? Because she's going to be with us tonight and probably won't be with us again for a couple of weeks. Could you address Linda with your question?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of addressing both of you. Go
ahead.
That's what I meant. That's why I thought I was talking to both.
Okay, Linda, what do you think?
So, I don't know. I've made the assumption that people put you on the list because that's their job, so they get paid to stalk you or whatever. So there is a primary and secondary gain, but that's only an assumption. So I think Frank is really better to give that information to you.
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me other than that?
Well, the thing is, like, there's, like, what I was curious about is, the what, in my case, just the question has to do with family. Okay, that before I was ever put on a list, I was a scapegoat in my family. I already had taken the role of somebody being targeted in my family, and the targeters seem to like have like I think they might have been working together anyway. So the thing is, my question is that's like my bridges were burnt like almost from the start, like when I moved out of my home. So the thing is, not everybody is in my situation, but the what happens to them over time is, like for me, I had work. I was working, for many years, and now I'm on disability and such. And I have tried to look for work, but then that man was talking about how he got targeted, and that's what happened when I went out again. So my question to you is, should I keep trying to get a job? And what I was trying to, my brainstorming has only led me to think, well, I have to learn new skills so that I can be hired despite whatever's going on. But I just feel so hopeless about that because the smear campaign and things like that seem to make if I do get hired, that it won't be long. And then I want it to last at least a few years. I'm not old enough to retire, but I am, retired, and that's pretty much the end. But I always have this hope that I'll get out there, and I've just.
Oh, sorry, we lost her, Linda. Maybe she'll call back.
So, but she kind of brought up a good point. She said she was already a scapegoat as a child. So when they're doing their investigation to find out whether or not they're going to admit you into the program, they're looking for people that are going to be easy targets. They don't want to have to work hard. They want to screw with you as easily as possible. And so if she's already an easy target, she had already, I'm assuming maybe family relationships aren't all that great, so there's a certain amount of isolation there. That's all the stuff that they're looking for. Who do they have for supports? Who's going to be there with them? Because the more they get you alone, the more they can mess with you because nobody else is witnessing it.
Exactly. That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, Linda, we can
We have another caller?
We are almost half an hour over. There are no more calls.
Wow.
If you'd like to spend another 40 minutes, it's up to you.
Okay, so hopefully there's still people that are listening. And again, I talked about why we are having this call. Is in a conversation that I had with Frank, I became very concerned for all y'all because of being targeted, and how are we coping with it and how we're responding to it. And I know that there's a lack of trust in my profession, and I understand it. I wouldn't go talk to anybody. I will talk to my colleague, but I haven't yet. I did admit that I was targeted and gave very, very little information. I mostly was getting information about the patient that she had. And but I figured this is a safe thing. No one knows who you are. We're on the radio. And it would be a way to open up some communication and see how we can help you. And then do we have more of these calls? Is it beneficial for you? Do we have small groups that we can work with that are all having similar issues that will help you out? Because if you don't want to go and do this through your insurance or in the public, I completely understand that you wouldn't want to. This is giving you the safety, but yet it's going to protect your mental health.
Okay, what we can do, possibly, is stream this into free conference call. I've never done it directly from radio, but we can try it. But I think that you brought up excellent points all through the show. Most definitely.
Well, I mean, it's a fight, it's a battle, it's a war.
Yes, it is.
And we need to win every battle that we can, because I do believe, I'm a Christian as well, and I do believe that good will prevail, that Jesus will get us through, or whoever it is that you believe in, is going to get us through. We just have to help ourselves.
Hold on.
And
TM Studio A Talk Radio. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Scott from Alaska, and I just wanted to thank Linda and Frank, because this is one of the more important calls I've ever heard. And I just want you to know, Linda, that this is very valuable information as far as I'm concerned. And I want to thank you personally for coming on the call. Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
I'm sorry for what you're going through.
Ditto. It's terrible.
I share
I guess
a lot of this sentiment that you do, and when I try to help other TIs with the fear and the anxiety part about it, it's hard to get through to them. And, I can only tell them that paranoia and the fears where it kind of has to all start breaking the cycles of the trauma.
Very good.
Yep. That's excellent. I appreciate what you do. And are you in the mental health field? Or are you in the healthcare field?
Oh, no, I'm a TI, only 2 years into this, but I feel a little more grounded than a lot of other TIs have been dealing with this for longer. I'm able to go to work. I don't let the B2K get to me. There's no scenarios it can bring up anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, we
look
have
in my rear view mirror every 2 seconds when I drive down the road anymore. I've broken all that. Like Frank says, go out the door and hold your head up high. And
Yep.
look in my rear view mirror every.
Okay, we've got people flooding us here.
Okay.
Frank says,
Hello?
Incoming. Okay, we've got Florence, New Jersey again. And we also have...
Hello?
Tracy. Go ahead, Tracy.
Yes, this is Tracy calling, and I'm new to Massachusetts, but I'm pretty much close to the Boston area.
Okay.
And so I've been targeted for a very long time, probably since. And so I've been targeted.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Hello?
Oh, we got multiple callers.
We've got a whole bunch tied up in a knot.
Okay. We lost Tracy.
Yeah,
Who
you know
just
what
said hello?
happened?
Is this Alaska?
I've got it right here. Tracy, go ahead.
Okay.
Tracy, go ahead. Tracy, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm wondering, I'm new to Massachusetts, came from California, and I don't know a lot of people here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go
Yes.
ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I'm wondering if Linda might be open to providing individual therapy to targeted individuals rather than doing it openly like it through conference calls, just because of the lack of privacy in my home.
Mm-hmm. I have my own practice.
Okay,
And
so
Tracy,
yeah,
you can get
I don't
some
know where
information.
your practice is, or whether my insurance would cover it or not. But I'm in the Boston area.
I am licensed in Massachusetts, but Frank can give you some information. I don't want to discuss too much. Right now, I don't accept insurance at this time. I'm still working on that.
Okay.
But I'm obviously going to be out of network for whatever insurance you have until I get credentialed with your insurance company. What it means is that you would pay your visit to me, and then you would submit for reimbursement through your insurance company. I'm looking at hiring a company that will help me credential, because I also work another job plus have my own practice. But Frank can give you information about my practice.
Great. Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and email him.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, let me see. Studio A, Talk Radio. Stephen, go ahead.
Hello?
Hello. Stephanie, must be.
Actually, my name is Christy.
Okay, I'm just seeing Stephen.
Stacy.
Okay.
That's okay. Am I on?
Yes, you are. You're live all around the world.
Thank you, Frank. I've called in before a couple of times when Alison Ireland was on, but I know you talk to so many people. There's something that's kind of been on my brain and on my heart about this targeting. I've been targeted for several years. Knock on wood, it's better for me now. But when it first happened, it was full blown, and my mind was mush. I couldn't think. I couldn't even really hardly feel. And the paranoia does set in. That's intentional. And the paranoia does set in. Hello?
Yep, go ahead.
What happened? Well, it just started playing music again on me.
Well, I'm learning switchboard operator here really quick.
Okay. Well, I was going to say I didn't do anything. So I guess what I want to get to is once I got past a little bit of that, I tried to center myself. And this goes to Linda and to you. I am a Christian, and I knew I was raised by people that loved me, and I knew that I had a spiritual life, and I knew I've known these people for so long. They want to try to put in your head that everybody's against you, and it feels that way. You're so emotionally wrecked, especially in the beginning, that every little comment hurts. But when I started trying to look over that and just repeat to myself, these people have always loved me. Some jerk is not going to convince them not to now. It started getting better for me. And I know that when people are first targeted, that's probably the last thing they want to hear, because I mean, there's science behind this. There's factual information behind it. But I also know if we can hold on to the love that we've always felt for the people that are closest to us, because they try to isolate you. And I was terribly isolated in the beginning because I couldn't hardly even speak some days. I was just damaged, seriously damaged. But then I began to realize that if I could block out everything and just hold on to the love, even if somebody I loved said something that kind of hurt my feelings, if I could just try to get past it, that the relationship started getting stronger again. And that has really worked well for me, and I'm not as isolated now as I was. In the beginning, I'm not sure I could have done that because I was broken. I mean, the V2K, the remote neural monitoring, the breaking into the house, the stalking, the phone lines, the computer lines. I mean, I had people coming out here and leaving scratching their heads going, we've never seen anything like this. We don't know what's wrong with your equipment. So I really, being bullied is an understatement. However,
Yes.
one way I was able to, I guess, tread water was to just hold on to what I knew had been true all of my life about a certain few people. And they do love me. They always have, and they're not involved in it. There's no question in my mind. But the powers that be tried everything they could to convince me that they were in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And isolation is a horrible thing.
It isn't, if I'm just going to interrupt for a minute, but so what a breath of fresh air to hear your testimony, because what I'm telling people is taking control of their life and empowering yourself to not let this get to you. And because it's psychological torture, they have psychologists who they spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week looking at your psychological profile and how they can mess with you. And once you do that, they realize, oh, well, we're not going to be able to mess with her on this. They'll change things up. But so it's better for you because of that.
Well, I think so. And I just wanted to try to encourage anybody I could. And again, I probably wouldn't have wanted to hear it in the beginning. I was so hurt. I was just a mess. They threw everything that I've ever heard about at me all at once. And the V2K was coming like 3 voices at once. And I can remember sitting in the middle of my bed saying, I had no idea. I'd never heard of targeted individuals. I'd never heard of gang stalking. I'd never heard of any of this. And they messed with my internet to the extent, even my television, my phones, my precious little mama would try to call me, and my phone would be right next to me and it wouldn't ring in. It's, and I was just a ball of nerves. I cried night and day. It took me a long time to get any kind of control, and I finally, I just kept praying. Even trying to pray out loud, it was like they were saying the words before I could say them. Or even if I tried to pray in private, it was so bizarre. I know how crazy that sounds, but there's a lot of science behind this. And that's the thing
so they would say the prayers with you?
Well, they would say what I was thinking. It was like I could hear the room fill up with my voice. It was almost like there was a recording of my voice coming out in the room, even when I tried to pray privately. I've talked to a couple of other TIs that have said it wasn't during their prayers, it was just during their thoughts that this happened to them. But again, I've never said all of this, but I just said to pretty much anybody because, talk about being labeled delusional. If I hadn't gone through it, that's exactly probably what I would think about someone. We're taught that if you hear voices, you're schizophrenic. Well, this didn't happen to me until around 2000. Looking back, there were some things that happened, but it didn't really happen to me full-fledged until about 2012. And I'm 67 years old now, so, I may be a little crazy, but I'm not. I'm not delusional. I'm not schizophrenic. And
right.
There's nothing that any target has done to deserve this. There's nothing that any human being has done to deserve this. And it's the most horrible thing. Horrible. And I have to wonder, Linda.
TM Talk Radio. Can you hold?
Thank you. On the Havana syndrome, on the diplomats. Each time they've come on 60 Minutes, they've said a little more and a little more. But I have to wonder if they haven't been threatened to not tell the whole thing.
Okay, I don't want to.
I believe that the it's being I think that what they're doing is they're not even airing a lot of the information. And, there are some of Congress who've actually tried to address this too, but, they're probably afraid of being targeted as well. I think people are learning that this is happening, but everyone's afraid. A lot of people are afraid to do anything. Havana syndrome has been recognized. And there was, did you fill out the paperwork when it went around that you were a victim of Havana syndrome?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't even realize.
I don't know if they're still doing it.
I will have to check, Linda, and we'll find out if, in fact,
there's a database.
Yes, there is.
Okay, I'll check. I'll check into that. No, I hadn't. I wasn't aware. So, and I don't want to take up, other people's time. I just, I've tried to get in a time or two. I wasn't able to. I'm just very pleased that Linda's there, and anything that anyone can genuinely do to help this group of people, it's desperately needed. So
thank you. I think
and
she'll be
you,
back
for
often.
Doing it.
She'll be back often, I promise.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good
You're
night.
welcome, and thank you for calling.
Bye now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
we'll probably have to do this next month.
Yep. Florence, New Jersey. Florence, New Jersey, go ahead.
Hi, Linda. This is Tori again. So you were mentioning something about something about DSM before we got cut off. What I should ask my therapist, but I also want to ask: would you be willing? I have insurance, and I know you can't take it right now, but would you be willing to provide me with an evaluation or whatever you call it in your field?
I can do that, but I'm not licensed in New Jersey, so you would have to come to New England. And Frank can tell you the states I'm licensed in.
Okay.
Yes, you can write me at frank@aihr.foundation, and that's the Allen Institute for Human Rights.
So, I'm sorry, Frank. Would you mind repeating that email address?
Sure. frank@aihr.foundation, as it sounds, foundation. And that's the Allen Institute for Human Rights.
So that's frank@aihr.foundation?
That's correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay, we have Susan Farrell coming up.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, Susan, go ahead. Okay. Susan F., go ahead.
Hello?
Hi, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Susan, and I'm definitely a TI. I just moved. I've moved 2 different states since the beginning of COVID. I had never heard about this targeting thing until I had been out in Lake Tahoe for 25 years. And anyway, I knew I had almost married into this really bad family, a big Italian, like mafia style family. And I had a lot of things happen, continuous, literally like beating my cars up with baseball bats. And anyway, I thought when COVID came, I thought, well, I'm going to sell my house. My career is over. I'm just going to leave. And as soon as I left,
TM Talk Radio, hold, please.
as soon as I left that area, bad things started happening no matter what state I went to, because I went to a few different states, not really sure. I'm originally from the East Coast. I wasn't really sure where to go. But I mean, everywhere I went, from Idaho to Salt Lake, ended up out in Colorado for a year. And it was in Colorado that I started Googling stuff because I was being pulled over by the police almost every day. And it was like, I have no criminal history at all. And, I'm a 58-year-old single, petite lady and educated. From talking and listening to Linda earlier, I was definitely a scapegoat in my family. So my mother, it's almost like she created this whole problem. I mean, it's like all the tactics that are happening in my life started happening as a child. I just didn't know anything about it till much later in life. But I started Googling stuff, just random questions I had, because at one point I was like, am I going crazy or what is happening? And then, somehow Google led me to this targeting individual stuff, and I started reading the sites and looking at the tactics, and it was like, check, 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 check. Like, this has all been done. The house break-ins, not just vandalizing my car, but like killing my cars, like draining transmission fluid, draining coolant.
Yep.
Just on and on. I just had a car. I've had 6 flat tires in the last 6 months. I'm now officially a full-time Uber driver. My car is vandalized on a regular basis. I've been stopped from being able to get an apartment, to the point that I called the news and said, do you guys want to do a story? And I didn't really know as much a year ago as I know today. But because the news was there and I have witnesses, the second apartment I went to, because my score was, at the time, it was 780 and blah, blah, blah. I met all the requirements. They had no reason to deny me a place to live. So then the next place I got into the place, and 12 days later I was evicted. And I had everybody in the complex after me. And so then I started living in Airbnbs, which I'm in the Asheville area. It's so expensive. And so then I created like $20,000 in debt because I had nowhere to go. And I do have 2 dogs that they have been messed with a little bit. Thank God, not too bad from some of the stories I've heard. But it's constant. They break into my Airbnb, where my Airbnb is now that I have a permanent. I did like a year's lease. There's 2 Airbnbs, and there's a lady living there that I'm 100% sure she's one of my paid perps. Like, she doesn't work. She's 40 years old, going through a divorce, has a little girl there. The noise harassment that she does on purpose. Coming into my room, I've had just in the last 2 weeks, 3 of my phone chargers broken, just split. And so it either has to be her or she's letting the police in to do it. I mean, I don't know. But I'm really glad, like, I don't even know how I stumbled onto this site. Like, by accident, I guess, but not an accident. And so I don't know how to get a hold of other TIs. I mean, I have no family, no friends, no support. Getting my butt kicked daily.
All right. Write to me right now so I can send you some information about a conference call that started at 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay?
Okay. What is your contact?
Okay. Frank at AIHR.foundation.
HR.foundation.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Because I would love to have Linda's information because I would be afraid. I would be afraid to go to any other psychologist that they would be in on this, and then they would mark me down as crazy.
Exactly. This is why Linda is a TI. This makes her a very special individual in her field.
Right.
And she has
Right.
been highly educated. She's one of the best, if not the best. And we are very fortunate.
Yes. Now, are we on a call now? Or am I just talking to you directly?
We are on radio, ma'am. TM.
Oh, okay. So my phone is hacked 24/7. They delete all my emails. My physical mail doesn't show up at my house. You guys know the routine. It's all the same stuff.
Yep.
You know.
That's right.
Yep.
So I'm glad I somehow found you guys. I don't know what I clicked on to get to this a couple weeks ago, but I'm very, very grateful, and thank you so much for the support.
Thank you so much for calling. And
You're welcome.
Linda's wonderful. We'll talk to you.
Yeah, I
Okay,
would love
stay
to talk
strong.
to
All right, bye now. Okay, Linda, we're approaching 9:16. I don't see any more callers in the queue. Would you like to continue? Or would you like to sign
I
off?
think I think we were just let's just talk for just a minute, and
Okay.
I think we obviously need to do this again.
Yes,
It's,
real soon.
It's what I suspected.
Yes,
It's actually what we both suspected, right, Frank?
that's right.
You know, you said that people were not. Go ahead.
You're 100% correct.
Because you had said that people were holding back a little bit on the trust, and you could see that during the call that it was very slow. And then once they trusted, then people started to call. And that's the whole thing, is that wait until, for the whole targeted community, wait until
Okay,
you can
hold on.
trust, and then you can reach out.
Okay,
We
hold
got
on.
one more?
Yeah, we've got another. TM Talk Radio. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Frank. This is Dee.
Hi, Dee. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay.
I'd like to ask a question. Go on. What were you going to say?
Linda is here to answer any of your questions. She is a targeted individual. She's also a psychiatrist. And any questions you have, feel free.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
I'm a targeted individual now for 2 years. It all started in my home, obviously. They were in our phones, in our television. At the same time, I was seeing a therapist because of the fact that I had a bit of a problem with my daughter. Something happened to her. It was a tragic thing. And I decided to get a therapist. And when I picked up the phone, I called a therapist in my town and was hooked up with a therapist who was basically from Manhattan, but came and worked for that therapist. So that's what she told me. And I spoke to her for a year and a half. And, we had a great relationship. But there were a lot of strange things that were going on. When I was on the phone with her, we did it through telehealth. So everything was on the phone. And I had insurance, and she kept on telling me not to worry about it. Then she told me she was leaving the place that she was working for, and that she was going to have her own practice out here, and that she was able to accept my insurance. But it was so prolonged. I kept on asking her, well, did you put the claims in yet? Did you put the claims in? And I gave her my insurance information because she said that my insurance was accepted. And she kept on telling me that she was going to hire someone to do the insurance claims. And the more I asked her, within the 2 years, the more she kept on telling me that she was going to get to it. And when, how do I put this? Things started to get really bad in my home on what was happening in my home due to the targeting. And I called her up one day and I was like I was hysterical. And I said to her, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this on the phone. And, I was crying, and she basically blew me off with a smug kind of attitude. And she said, okay, whatever you want to do. And after that, she said that she, would call me. She never did. But I did talk to her after. But after that, my husband and I, we decided, because of what was happening to our home with all the targeting and all the invasion and all the hacks and everything else, there in our information, in our mail, everything. We decided that we were going to go to an attorney to get a will to basically protect our state. And when we got there, I called this attorney in the town that I live in, and when we made the appointment at a certain time, and when we got there, we were told to leave and to come back in an hour. And there was a woman that was in the lobby waiting to see this attorney. So when we went outside, I saw somebody in a white van, and they were underneath the seat of the car. And I said to my husband, I said, somebody's watching us. I can't imagine what's going on. And why did they tell us to come back in an hour? And my husband, he basically said, I don't know. He said, well, let's just go back in an hour. So what happened was we went back in an hour. And when we got into the attorney's office, he started questioning me. He started asking me all these questions, as if he was asking me who I was, and if I had any skills with a computer, and it was just all. And I was picking, and I'm saying, what is going on here? I'm here to get I'm here to get a will. So anyway, and then he said, oh, I want you to meet someone. And I said, okay. And a woman came into the office, and he told me that she was the office manager. And I basically shook her hand. My husband shook her hand. And then she left. And how do I put this? It turned out, from all my observation and from everything that we've been going through, that woman did not work in the lawyer's office, and she wasn't. She wasn't the office manager. As a matter of fact, I was driving down the street one day to go meet my husband after they had tripped our home alarms off again, because I didn't want to stay in the house. And she was behind me in the car with another man that I see following me all the time. So what I'm getting at, okay, I don't mean to go all over the place. It's very difficult when, all this is happening to you and you need to explain it, So there were other things that were happening. My son was very concerned about me, and we tried to go to the FBI. And when we went to the FBI, the day that we tried to go to the FBI to report all this on what was happening to us, we didn't get there. Okay, we were being followed. We didn't get there. We came back home, and when we came back home, there was a police officer in front of my house telling me that my son called for my well-being, and that an ambulance was coming to see if I was okay. So the ambulance came, and when the ambulance came, I had to go into the ambulance, and they took my blood pressure, and they started asking me all these questions, and they had me get on the phone with another doctor in a hospital who was asking me if I knew what day it was, if I knew if I was a danger to myself, if I wanted to commit suicide. I mean, all these things. And I said no.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was just totally bizarre. And the police officer, this particular police officer, was basically, he wasn't very nice to me. He basically told me that if I didn't get in the ambulance, he was going to wrestle me down to the ground. And as I'm thinking back with this therapist, or the so-called therapist, I'm thinking that maybe she wasn't a therapist at all, because the fact of the matter is that she asked me some strange questions when I first started talking to her. But I just blew it off, because she was so nice. And one of the things she asked me at the beginning, I remember it was snowing out, and she said, "Well, do you want me to come to your house with my boyfriend? Because I know your husband, is not well right now," and or whatever she said. And she said, he can shovel the walk. And I thought that was like pretty strange.
Yeah.
And when I spoke. Yeah, and then when I spoke to her at the end, like when I was hysterical crying, one of the questions that she asked me who my mortgage company was. That's what she asked me. She asked me and I said, I'm not giving you that. I mean, I just told her right off.
Yeah.
So after that,
they're looking at your assets.
Sorry, I don't mean to go on and on. Mm-hmm. What did you say? I'm sorry.
They're looking at your assets.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's why they were at the attorney's office, too. They wanted to prevent that will, because if anything happens to you, or they determine that you are incompetent, and they've already tried to do that, then it gives them access at some point to your assets. So,
okay.
All right, what was your question?
So my question is, okay, because of all the questions that she asked me, and by the way, after this, there was another incident where I was asked from a family member, because, they said to me, well, you look terrible and you're not doing well. And I was like totally, how do I put this? I wasn't in a good way. I was very upset. I was losing all kinds of weight. I had a lot of physical symptoms from the attacks. And so I agreed to go to the hospital to get checked out. And when I went to the hospital, I was there, 5 minutes. And my family member called an ambulance. He said, you know what, I think it would be better if we called an ambulance. And unfortunately, I agreed to this. And when I got to the hospital, I was there, 5 minutes, and it was as though they were waiting for me. And when I got there, they took me I was in the emergency room, and they took me behind a door, and they locked it. They all had masks on, and they put me in a psych unit. And before they put me in that psych unit, okay, apparently they put me out because I don't remember. Okay, my husband told me I was out for 10 hours, and they gave me a CAT scan. They never spoke to me about the results of the CAT scan. They never asked me if I wanted a CAT scan. And then they kept me in a psych ward for 2 weeks, and I didn't know that they weren't allowed to keep me in a psych ward. I live in New York State. And I didn't know they weren't allowed, they weren't allowed to do this. And my husband didn't know about this either. So going back to the therapist, I contacted her after this to tell her what happened. And one of the things that she always stressed to me was that she wasn't allowed to divulge any private information that I shared with her in therapy, in the telehealth, therapy. Yeah. And I also said to her, I said, well, and again, I was really upset. She was my therapist for 1.5 years. And I said to her, well, maybe I can come back. And she said, oh, no, I can't see you now that you're in the hospital. You're in a psych unit. That's what she said to me. And I never heard from her again.
So that was her
And
job.
by the way, what do you mean? By the way, she collected. Finally, she collected her fees because I finally received a receipt from my insurance company, which amounted to $10,000. And like I said, she never, contacted me again. But the conversations with her were also very strange. And there were other things that she would tell me. She basically would convey to me, not that I was telling her everything about what was going on. I was telling her bits and pieces on what was going on in my life when I was being targeted like this. I'm still being targeted. But she started telling me stories about herself, that she was targeted. And she started telling me that, she was working in Manhattan and she came out to Long Island and she said that someone took a loan out in her name for school loans worth $250K, and the police don't help. And I mean, the whole thing was completely bizarre. So my question is, and I'm sorry that I'm going on, do you think she was a therapist or maybe she...
I don't know, but she could have been hired to get you to the point of a hospitalization. Because somebody had an interest in your assets. That's pretty obvious. They showed up at your attorney's office. They prevented you from going to the FBI. She was asking financial information that she had no business asking.
Okay.
So you almost want to report her.
I would. Seriously, I would report her. To quote George Carlin, they wanted your stuff. Oh, boy.
Just have somebody look it over before you send it in. You don't want it to be dismissed. This is very serious. You want someone to look this over.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I'm going on and on. Yeah,
so
somebody else
that
told
is
me that
due to
I
being
should
a targeted
report her.
individual.
Exactly. We have patience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, the whole thing was bizarre. And by the way, she basically also told me, I'm in real estate. I was in real estate. As of now, who knows what's going on? But what they did was they contacted me online. The Department of State contacted me online and told me that they wanted my records from the last 10 years on my education. And I've always taken my education, and what you do is you fill out a form and you swear under perjury of law, whatever it means, that you took these classes. But when they asked me for the last 10 years back of all these classes, I was just like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? You know what I'm saying? Because, I have to get all this information together within a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to convey here is that I started to tell her about this. She was my therapist, so I said, I can't believe this is happening. And first she basically just missed it, and she said, you know what, it's only a scam. Someone's doing that to you online. But it was an email from the Department of State. And then she came back and she said to me, oh, the same thing happened to me with my psychology, my psychology license. And I had to go to Albany, the Department of State in Albany, with an attorney. And I said, oh, okay. I said, and what happened? And she says, well, they'll never be doing that to me again. So anyway, I really appreciate, I'm sorry if I sound like I'm all over the place.
That's okay.
But it's just so overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. I'm being targeted in every avenue, every way, even on the calls. You know what I'm saying? Even when I go on the conference calls, I'm being targeted. And there was a person that said on the phone before I was listening that they're basically in a nucleus. And that's exactly how my house is situated in my neighborhood. And I am surrounded by all these characters. they even move them in. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, and good night.
So, so Frank, that's typical, right? You and I've heard this
Oh,
over
yes.
and over again. You
over
have a
and over.
targeted individual. Yeah, you finally have the safety to talk.
Exactly.
And we all have to have patience for each other when this happens to somebody.
That's correct.
I do need to call it a night. I got to work tomorrow.
Myself as well. Yeah, we have a
Yes.
conference call that's been it's been rolling since 9, but they
It's 9
understand.
o'clock.
Okay, so I'd like to thank you very much, Linda, and I'd like
You're
to
welcome.
thank the listening audience, and I'd like to say good night from Boston, Massachusetts.
Good night.
My name is
We'll
Frank Allen, and good night.
Good night.